Hey guys, welcome back to Hook with Anime. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Chapter 1. I understand it. I, Rias Gremory, have no more means. In other words, checkmate. Now, there is not a single one in my peerage who has any strength left. So I no longer have any chances in this rating game. Now that I think about it, I really didn't have any chance from the start. It was decided from the moment I accepted this game. There was no way in hell I could beat Riser, who is one of the best high-class devils in my first rating game. Moreover, without even a full peerage. Yes, the winner has been decided already, but that boy continues to stand up. Issei, he is the only one who continues to move forward towards Riser even under this situation. Tisk, just drop out already. Riser was getting more and more impatient. I will never blue. Issei. No, blood, he's spitting out blood. Issei. Stop it, please, we lost the game so. Bucko. Don't d***cough. I'll fulfill my promise, I'll save you from this trash. What? You dare insult this Riser? This high-class devil? I'll kill you. Gah. No, he got a hole in his stomach. No, at this rate. That's it. You know, Rias. A death in the rating game is considered an accident, right? Riser then smirked and started to gather magic in his right arm, ready to kill Issei in one last blast. No, Riser. Please, *hic. Rias started crying while watching the scene. Ha ha ha, since you've been rebellious for a while now I need to show you what will happen if you confer. Riser stopped talking when he felt the huge amount of magic emanating from Rias. Why? Rias shouted at the top of her lungs while clutching her hair. Why? What did I do? Why do I have to suffer like this? No, I don't want this, I don't want this life. No. Kya. Ka. After that, Rias's magical power was so great it sent all the other four on the roof flying. And that caused Asia to land badly and drop out of the game. And then the same magical power that caused even the earth to tremble was gone abruptly. What in the underworld happened? Riser-sama, it seems Rias-sama's magical power has gone berserk and then depleted soon after. While Riser was conversing with his queen, Rias stood up slowly from her place. Oh? You can still stand after that outburst of magical power? As expected from my wife, ha ha ha. Bucko. While Riser was laughing his ass off, Rias was just blankly staring at her arm. Just when Issei was about to approach his king he suddenly stopped. Her eyes, are they red? Rias's sky blue eyes are gone and now she has eyes like her crimson red hair with three black tomo-like things in a slightly gray circle. But that wasn't the reason he stopped. It was fear that he didn't feel in his entire life that forced him to stop. Even the heavenly dragon's aura in his left arm is worth shit in comparison to the aura his king was releasing right now. Interesting, Issei gasped at the voice of Rias. It was cold, dark, sinister. Like the voice of a ghost. Poor Issei wouldn't know that the one in front of him right now is really a ghost. One that's called, Ghost of the Uchiha, Oi, Rias. Riser quickly approached Rias and took her hand, was planning to. Answer M. Just when Riser was about to touch her he realized that in the next moment his head was flying. Yes, flying, and his headless body stood in its original place. Riser-sama. In that instant, all the ultimate class devils and above watching the game abruptly stood up, and the reason for that. Impossible. How did she move this fast? There is no way a mere high-class devil can move at that speed. They all widened their eyes at once. It was understandable, after all Rias's speed was almost at high-level ultimate class devil. However, the four devil kings stood for another matter. They, like Issei, seemed to have noticed the girl's terrifying aura. Oi, you three. Did you feel it? Why yeah, it gives me goosebumps. Why Rias Tan have that thing? I don't know. The reason they were panicking is because they recognized that aura, rather a fraction of it. It was the aura of a war's maniac, the aura of a person that killed thousands upon thousands. They all experienced the civil war firsthand, so they will never forget this feeling. The feeling of death. If we look closely, it seems that even Rias herself seems surprised. What in the six paths? She said with disbelief in her voice. I just channeled a fraction of chakra to my hand and hit him lightly. She then looked at her arm again. This body. Why is it so strong? Also, she then opened her devil wings. She widened her eyes even more and started to control them as if it's the first time she used them. Fuck? Rias. Ho, Riser already regenerated his head and started screaming before she grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. A Jinchuriki? No, it's something else. Even a Jinchuriki won't survive a beheading. And this strange energy. I have it in my body too? It's familiar. Gah. Rias. Leave me this instant. Bucko. Yes, I remember now. Isn't this the energy required to perform the reincarnation ninjutsu of the outer path? But this quantity. Impossible. To have this much is absurd. Normally you would need to trade your life just to perform the jutsu once. The kid called it magical power? Oi, kid. The fuck are you? What? What do you maya? Answer. Now. After she said that she made eye contact with him, suddenly Riser's eyes became the same as Rias. What are you? I am a devil. What is a devil? A magical race that inhabit the underworld, like hell? Said Rias while looking at the purple sky. Ah, eh? The moment she breaks eye contact with him, his eyes turn back to normal. Ha 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 ha. Bucko. Suddenly Rias started laughing like a maniac and that frightened Issei that never saw his king like that. Fuck. Enough. Riser didn't like that and hit her with his fire's magic. Bucko? Fucker. Issei freaked out and tried to attack Riser. Fuck off. Riser then did the same to Issei, which caused him to drop out. Rias Gremory's pawn is out. Rias landed skillfully in the school's courtyard looking like nothing happened. What just happened? I didn't feel any chakra at all. But I sensed that magical power gathering in the air. But, no hand seals whatsoever? Rias raised a brow while looking at Riser at the top of the school. Riser-sama, should I take care of her? Alright, end it fast. At once, my king. After those words, the one called Ubaluna charged at Rias. Rias seeing this, she smirked and made some weird hand signs and inhaled deeply as she said. Fire style. Majestic destroyer flame. And then from her mouth, she shot out an unbelievably large sea of flames towards the approaching queen. What? The sea of flame was so big, don't mention Ubaluna or even the school, it engulfed more than half of the battlefield, destroying everything in its way. Our Riser Pfennig's queen out. Every high-class devil watching the rating game felt cold sweat in their spine from the sudden destruction. That attack wiped everything clean, even the ground was dark and still flickering from the heat. Rias narrowed her eyes when she saw Riser regenerating from thin air. That regeneration is even faster than the Edo Tensei. A devil. Does that mean I have that ability too? Rias looked at her bloody arms from Riser's previous attack and frowned. I don't think so. Then it's a bloodline trait? Kikaki, most curious. Rias, I don't care anymore. I'll kill you. The moment Riser comprehends what happened, he charged at Rias. And then it appeared. Just when he was a few steps from her, a dark blue massive hand spurted from her side and clutched him in place. The fuck? She then nonchalantly walked toward him. I wonder what other surprises you have for me? Blue. After she said that, with her bare hand she stabbed him in the chest and plucked out his heart. She watched the beating heart in her hand as it crumbled to yellow flames and then Riser's chest, who recovered instantly. Interesting. How about a mind attack? She then clutched his hair to make eye contact and said. Tsukuyomi. Riser just noticed her eyes took another pattern and the next moment everything changed. The first thing he saw was the crimson-red sky, like his fiancée's hair. He tried to move but couldn't as he realized he had been constrained by a wooden-like pole. Kid. He then looked forward and noticed Rias standing with a katana in her hand. Even though he wondered when she did get it, he was more confused that the world seemed gray and a mix of white and black. Nothing personal. Just curse your fate that you picked my interest. Ah. And then without waiting for his response, she stabbed him in the chest, after which she purposefully started twisting the blade in his stomach until he passed out from pure pain. When he returned to his senses, he found everything back to the start, the same grayish world and everything. The only difference is that now there are 2 Rias instead of 1. You're going to get tortured here for 15 days, ah. Then they stabbed him, and twisted until he passed out. Ah? Again, everything back to start and now there are 3 Rias, he felt cold sweat in the back of his head. Don't tell me. Yes it is. He widened his eyes knowing that she can even read his head. Every time you lose consciousness you'll add 1 more of me. And no plea. 1 second of time within Tsukuyomi's illusion is equivalent to 1 by 10 seconds of real time. After hearing that he passed out again, and then with those cold emotionless eyes of hers she continued. 5 Rias, 6 Rias, 10 Rias, 50 Rias, 500 Rias, 10,000 Rias. HMPH. Not even a single day and he lost it. Chapter 2. R. Riser Phoenix out. T. The winner is Rias Gremory. After a moment of silence. Oh, as expected of Lucifer-sama's sister. To think she beat that Riser in her first game. Rias-sama. Cheers can be heard everywhere. The 4 Satans however remained silent as they tried to understand what just happened. Rias's father finally calmed down and closed his eyes slowly, before opening them again and turning to his friend. Lord Phoenix. I'm very sorry that this engagement turned out like this. I know it's rude but this engagement. You don't have to say any more, Lord Gremory. It was a good engagement for pure devils, but it looks like we both had too much greed. Both of us already have grandchildren. Maybe it's the greed as devils that made us crave for it. Or it is because we saw hell in the last war. No, I also forced my greed onto my daughter. In fact, I really want to thank your daughter for this. What my son lacked was defeat. He overestimated the ability of our clan. This will also be a good lesson for my son. Phoenix is not absolute. Just him learning that was enough for this engagement, Lord Gremory. Lord Phoenix. Lord Phoenix waved his hand and continued. Your daughter has good talent. Looks like the underworld won't be bored in the future. Yeah, I never knew she had such power. Lord Phoenix frowned at this. What do you mean? How come you didn't know? Father. The 2 men turned to the new voice. Sears, what's wrong? We have to talk, he said while looking at the other lord. Then I shall take my leave now, Lord Gremory. Lord Phoenix stood up and made his way out of the balcony. I see. See you later, friend, and sorry about this. Don't mind it, said Lord Phoenix as he left while waving his hand. After that, Sears sat down. Did you feel it? Lord Gremory's face turned serious at that statement. Why does she have that? How come I know nothing about this? He asked his son. I don't know, I just know about it like you. That's impossible. If you really don't know about this, then it makes no sense at all. While the 2 started to get impatient, another voice sounded out. You 2. They turned to the voice. Ajuka-sama? What is it, Ajuka? Look at this, he said as he handed them a tablet-like device. This is red eyes. On the screen was the face of Rias from the rating game. That's right. Look, the moment she had that outburst of demonic energy, she got those eyes, and if I remember correctly, it's the same moment she began to release that sinister aura. After that explanation, everyone became silent, until Lord Gremory breaks it. I never saw or heard or even read about anything like this. Are you sure, father? The other 2 looked at the oldest devil in the room. Definitely, if something like that exists in our bloodline I would be the first one to know about it. Sears sighed and replied, I see. He then turned to Ajuka. Can I count on you for this? I don't have any clue at the moment, but I'll see what I can find. Sears nodded and looked at the ceiling. Let's just hope it's nothing serious. He then flared his power and said, if anything happens to my cute little Ria, I'll go on a rampage. The other 2 sweat dropped at this. Rias just tossed Riser to the side and then she heard something about winning a game. Game? Yes, a rating game. She then frowned as she felt new memories flood her mind. Gremory. Rias Gremory. That's me right now. He then looked at his arm. What an interesting world. Oh. Is the original still here? After he said that he looked around and thought, well, I have no plans for now. Rias then closed her eyes. Just when she closed them her peerage appeared from a magical circle together with her sister-in-law Graphia. Bucko. They all rushed at her. Thank goodness, she doesn't have that scary aura. Thought Issei as he went with his peerage to their king. Just when they reached her, she opened her eyes. Rias. Just when she opened her eyes she was hugged by her queen. Aquino? You did it, Rias. Did WH? She then widened her eyes. Yes. The rating game. Where is Riser? WH. Rias-sama, the rating game has ended. She turned to Graphia in shock and then she said in a sorrowful voice. I see. So I lost after all. That's incorrect, Rias-sama. Bucko, could it be that you don't remember what you did? She turned to her knight. What? What did I do? Why, you've beat his ass. She frowned. Who? That fucker, Riser. Replied Issei in his place, and she widened her eyes in shock. Me? Beat Riser? She then turned to look around and found Riser unconscious in the ground and his sister that was trying to make him drink what she thought was a phoenix tears. Oni-sama, soon after he woke up and then turned to Rias. Ah! Monster! Get away from me, he shouted at the top of his lungs as he tried to crawl away from her as if he saw a death god. It was then she heard a voice. Who, it can heal the mind? She was frightened and turned around to find the source, but no one was there other than her peerage and her sister-in-law. Bucko? Are you okay? She looked down at her rock that had a concerned face. Why yeah, it's probably just my imagination. After which Kaneko tilted her head to the side cutely. Chapter 3, Aonyo. Everyone turned to the voice. What's wrong Asia-chan? Should I heal your hands? After she heard that, she noticed that her hands were indeed injured. Strange. I really don't remember anything. She thought as she guessed that she probably injured herself during the fight with Riser. She then smiled warmly at her cute servant and replied. Yes please, if you would. Hey. Asia had an angelic smile as she approached her kind king and then pointed her palms at her before a green light appeared out of nowhere and suddenly the injuries healed instantly. The hell is that? Suddenly Rias opened her eyes wide and thought. Again. Where the hell is this male's voice coming from? She scanned her surroundings again, but no one she didn't know was there, and she certainly never heard this voice before. This energy. It's not magical no demonic power. Also definitely not chakra or anything I've seen before. Rias was starting to panic. She didn't know whose or where this voice was coming from. It was like it was coming directly from her core or soul. Sacred gears. I have to research these things later. Rias was about to ask for help from someone when the voice sounded again. Brat, I wouldn't do that if I were you. She froze. She somehow felt that the voice was speaking to her. Wait. He can read my mind. HMPH, isn't that obvious? How come you didn't realize what happened to your body yet? My body? Bucko. TCH, don't speak brat, use your mind. Rias realized her mistake and quickly said. Sorry, I was just talking to myself. I see. He said I shouldn't reveal him, since he can speak inside my mind, who knows what else he can do. I can't risk myself and even more so my family. My brother may be ABL. Sorry to disappoint you, but that guy won't be able to help you. Don't speak. Rias got scared and quickly said, this time making sure to use her mind. I'm sorry, it was unintentional. HMPH, now back to where we were. That's right. Why can't my brother help me? And why can you read my mind? No, just who are you? Don't interrupt me brat, you don't want to anger me. Rias didn't like the way he talked to her. Hey, who do you think you are? I'll have you know, my bro. Suddenly the world turned black and gray and then someone lifted her from her throat. I can't Brea, she struggled to breath while trying to see who dared to attack her. Hick. However when she saw the culprit, she couldn't help but yelp in fear. He was otherworldly. A large and tall man with long spiky black hair like a lion. And he was wearing some kind of old red-like armor and beneath it something like a purple kimono, but what scared her the most was his piercing black eyes like the abyss itself. Also that strong killing intent that he was releasing even though she can only feel a fraction of it as she was still inexperienced and naive. Now she was shaking from fear and even some tears formed in her eyes. Oh? Where did all your previous demeanor go? He tightened his grip as he said that. Hick, I'm sorry. Hick. She started to cry for real after he teased her just a little. TCH. Weak. Kya. He released his grip and she dropped to the ground. Hick, she continued to cry, but unfortunately for her that only served to anger the man more. Shut up. Hick. After which she crawled away and stopped crying reluctantly while scared to the brim. Now she understands that this man will kill her any moment if he wanted to, and wouldn't even bat an eye while doing it. The man smiled at her. That's more like it. First of all, you don't need help in the first place. She gave him a questionable gaze. Sigh, truly a trash. Even after I brought you to our mindscape you still won't notice it? And now that he said it, where is this place? He said our mindscape. Wait, ours? The man obviously knows what she's thinking and grinned as he said while pointing at her and then himself. Exactly, you and me, we are the same person. Rias widened her eyes and thought that this man was crazy. Does he think I'm some stupid little girl or something? No, he's crazy. I can't believe you still don't recognize what happened to yourself. He looked disappointed and then approached her. And no, gee, get away from me. When she saw him approaching, she paused and tried to run away. Kya? However, he instantly appeared in front of her and grabbed her head. Please, no. The moment she made eye contact with him, the last thing she remembered was his crimson strange eyes before she lost consciousness. After an unknown amount of time, Rias regained her consciousness. Oh? You finally woke up? She looked towards the man who's leaning in the ground a little away from her and then, surprisingly, didn't freak out but calmly stood up. She kept looking at him, to which he frowned and said, "What? So you're real? You really are from another world? HMPH, if it's not, then how would you explain the memories you saw?" True. After she said that, she looked at her hand and stayed silent for a while before she broke the silence. Say, he replied without looking at her. So Madara-san, what are you, or should I say what are we going to do from now on? I really don't have any plans for the moment. This is a new world and everything seems new and different, even my race is different, so you can do what you want for now. I see. Rias then looked down and thought for a moment before she raised her head again and said, "Then what about you?" Madara finally turned to her, and said uninterested, "I'll just observe from here, since we are two in one, technically we are the same person, so anything you do is like me doing it, and likewise." I see. Also, since my soul is enormous compared to yours, I hold more authority over our body than you, so keep that in mind. Rias nodded at him, to which he smiled and continued, "Since we are in our mindscape, the time in the real world should remain the same, so you don't have to worry about it." Okay. Now then, I'll send you back now, and remember not to reveal me, as that will inconvenience us. Yes, I know, she said convinced, to which Madara relaxed a bit and sent her back to the real world. After she's gone, Madara turned his gaze back to the red moon in the ash-gray sky. While leaning in the ground, he said in a longing and sorrowful voice, "Hashirama, I wonder what would you do in this situation?" Chapter 4. Just when Issei thought that his president was acting a little strange, she suddenly hugged him. "B bucko? Issei, what?" he said pervertedly as he fell on her breasts. "Please. Let me stay like this for a bit, eh?" "Oh, of course." And so they stayed in that position while everybody else watched. Some were curious while one was actually jealous. "Unfair," Asia said while looking towards the two. "Pervert. Era. However, no one there realized that the moment Rias hugged Issei, an interesting encounter happened, one that surely no one expected. "This is," said Madara as he raised a brow. "The moment the brat hugged the kid, I felt a powerful presence in him and decided to check it out. I certainly didn't expect this." He was currently in a volcanic area where the earth and soil was red, and in the distance a huge mountain could be seen. The aura is coming from there. He was looking in the said mountain direction. "Alright, let's see who could have this much presence." The moment he said that, he disappeared from his place. He was moving so fast that could put a high-class devil in shame, and that without using any chakra at all. Oh? When he reached the mountain, he could see that in its foot there was a huge and majestic cave. "So, he's here then?" thought Madara as he folded his arms. Just when he considered going in, a deep and majestic voice came from inside the cave. "Who dared to disturb my slumber? HMPH, why don't you show yourself first? It's proper etiquette to meet your guests." After a moment of silence, the earth suddenly started to tremble. "He's not humanoid," though Madara was uninterested. After the creature finally came out, he stopped outside the entrance. If anyone else saw him, he would freak out and run away immediately, or at least be intimidated. However, not this guy. He met much more big and scary beings than a dragon. When the red dragon saw the human, his eyes suddenly had a dangerous glint. "A human? How dare you enter my mindscape, little ant? Even my hosts didn't dare come here." HMPH, I usually don't do this, but since this is a new world and all, let us first start with an introduction. My name is Mad. Silence. The dragon suddenly shouted, which caused tremors in the area. "I don't have to know your name, little ant. You don't deserve having me hearing it. HMPH, you're just an uncultured beast after all." After Madara said that, he immediately activated his Sharingan. "I'll just have to take you then." After he said that, the dragon suddenly jolted in his place. Now, just when he thought that he had taken control of the beast, he was suddenly hit by a huge tail from the side. He was hit so hard that he flew 200 meters to the sky before landing harshly on a rocky hill. Ha! A mere human dared to control my body. Not even Great Red could do it, you little ant. The dragon said angrily as he looked at the human in the distance. You at least survived my tail, not many beings could do it. He said as he instantly appeared in front of him. Madara stared wide-eyed at the dragon in front of him. If I didn't defend myself with the Susanoo at the last moment, I might actually be heavily damaged. When the dragon noticed that only the human's armor was damaged a little, he felt his pride as a heavenly dragon falter a bit and suddenly flared his aura as he glared at the ant in front of him. HMPH, now what are you going to do, little ant? If you seek forgiveness then it's futile, I'll have. Shut up. What? You dare interrupt me? The dragon suddenly roared and went to kill the human. You're just a lizard, know your place. After he said that he pointed his palm at the ferocious dragon and said 2 words. Shinra Tensai. What? The dragon suddenly felt a wave of gravity that hurled his huge body backwards. HMPH, he then opened his wings and resisted it. Roar. After the wave passed he roared and shouted a massive fireball from his mouth. How about you block that? Said the dragon as he watched the human stay unmoved, still holding his hand in his direction. What's wrong? Did yo? The dragon suddenly stopped talking when he saw that his heavenly fireball had rapidly been absorbed from the human palm. Impossible. How can a too much energy? Madara said as he felt a strong type of energy flow to his reserves. Yet another type of energy. This is even more potent than demonic power. Truly, what a wonderful world. But, I'll have to tame you first. He then brought his palms together. And from between his palms a strange black orb appeared out of nowhere. He gently spread his arms and let the orb fly to the sky. What the hell is that? Thought the dragon as he glared at the strange orb that flew in his mindscape. The orb flew slowly to the sky until it completely blocked the sun. Madara brought his palms together again and said 2 words. Chibaku Tensai. The moment he said that, the orb suddenly radiated a blinding white light that engulfed the entire area. What? Said the dragon confused as he noticed that from the orb a terrifying gravity force was generated. It's gradually increasing. What's this? I never saw anything like this in my eternal life. Magic? No, it's something else. Too slow. Said Madara as he frowned. He then smirked and used his demonic energy. After he did so, the orb suddenly turned dark red and doubled in size. Wah! Before the dragon could react, the terrifying surge of gravity instantly dragged him to the orb together with his cave and the entire landscape around him. And strangely only the area where the human was standing remained intact. After some time it finally ended and in the sky an enormous boulder was looming above the equally enormous hole. HMPH, a lizard should know its place, said Madara uninterested as he stared blankly at it. Boom, roar. Suddenly the boulder burst to pieces as a loud roar and a terrifying red beam of light shot from inside it towards Madara. Madara didn't even have time to dodge as he hastily raised one hand to absorb it. HMPH, it's futile, said Madara as he smirked while absorbing the 20 meters in radius beam. Roar. After another roar from the dragon, the beam that originally was 20 meters in radius now became 40 meters. HMPH. Madara then raised another hand and continued to absorb it again. Too much energy for a single lizard, let this Madara take care of it for you. Madara's grin widened as he felt more and more of this powerful energy enter his reserves. The dragon suddenly realized what Madara was doing and stopped his attack abruptly. What's wrong? Is that all you've got? Said Madara as he tried to provoke it to attack again. TCH. Grunted the dragon in annoyance of the human that actually took advantage of his temper to obtain his heavenly draconic energy. He then looked around at the absurd damage caused by that strange orb. Now that he thinks about it, there is no way in hell a human can fight on par with him, so he looked again at the strange man, this time thoroughly checking his identity. Now instead of the black or the strange red pattern eyes, now he has some sort of purple ripples with black circles. He also has red armor, but it seems it's just an ordinary item that you can find in the human's world. After that he tried to thoroughly sense the aura of the man. Then he widened his eyes wide and blurted out, "You, what in the world are you?" What do you mean? Replied Madara as he folded his arms again. You are not human, or at least you're not human anymore. Madara understood where the lizard was going and smirked. Well, I was going to introduce myself before you started the dance. Dance? Whatever, why do you have demonic energy? You also have a human soul, even though your soul is on par with a dragon's soul, so it's not human in any way, and also chakra. Why on earth would a non-yokai have chakra? And this quantity too? Just what the hell are you really? The dragon was speechless as he listed all that he could sense from the man, even though he was sure that was not everything, as he could barely sense something unworldly deep inside the man. HMPH, I have too many names, but well, in my current state you could call me Sage of 6 Paths. No, since I could use the magic path, then I'm Sage of 7 Paths. Sage of 7 Paths? I never heard that name before, thought the dragon as he tried to remember it from his memory. Yes, I'm Sage of 7 Paths Madara Uchiha. Madara introduced himself and then looked silently at the creature in the sky. What? Introduce yourself already, fucking lizard. The dragon suddenly flared his power and glared at the man in front of him. Well, since he introduced himself, I should do it too, although there is no way he doesn't know who I am. Is he mocking me now? The dragon glared for a couple more seconds before he sighed and straightened himself. Ahem, I'm one of the 2 heavenly dragons and the one and only Red Dragon Emperor DxD, he said proudly as he flared his terrifying heavenly draconic aura. Chapter 5, Dragon? What's that? Is that what you call oversized lizards here? Said Madara in amusement, however on the inside he thought. I remember that name in the brat's memory, so this is how sacred gears work. It's just like a Jinchuriki, or is it just limited to the Longinus? If glares could kill, then Madara would die thousands of times. Smirk. However, the poor DxD didn't know that Madara's eyes can actually kill with a glare, so glaring at him will just make him look down on you. After a couple of seconds of DxD's glaring and Madara's amusement, the dragon sighed and said, Well then, Sage of 7 Paths, what do you want from this great me? Nothing much, I just came to check the presence I felt in that kid. Kid? You mean my host? Pretty much. I can feel that you originate from the Gremory princess's body. Is she also your host? HMPH, don't put me in the same place as you. I just gave her permission to use our body, as that would work better for me right now. Our body? So you've taken control over her body. But how did you do it? HMPH, why should I tell you? DxD's eyes twitched and Madara turned around to leave. Don't tell me you're planning to leave? I think you already know that this is my mindscape. Did you think I'll let you go that easily? After the dragon said that, he waved his hand and everything returned to its original state, even their position changed back to the cave's entrance. HMPH, see you later, Red Lizard Emperor. After Madara said that, he exploded to white smoke. He actually managed to leave. DxD was absolutely enraged as he noticed that he couldn't feel the man's presence anymore. Roar. The next time he comes here, I'll definitely obliterate his existence, thought the heavenly dragon as he shouted a deafening roar that caused the entire landscape to tremble. In the human world and in the student council room of Kuo Academy, 2 beautiful girls were watching the rating game from start until it finished with a dozen monitors hanging in the air. President? The busty girl asked her president as she adjusted her glasses. Yes, I know. The other girl replied as she adjusted her own glasses. Perhaps no one noticed it because of Rias's sudden flashy display, but that flame earlier was definitely not magic. There was no magic circle. Is it her bloodline power? I don't think so, Tsubaki. That was, how should I say it, it was a normal fire. What? What I'm saying is that fire was not her power of destruction but a normal fire. Tsubaki. Once she heard that she produced a magic circle, and in the monitors, a replay of Rias's flame attack was displayed. You are right, President. This fire has a natural color instead of Rias-sama's power of destruction that has a mix of black and red. While Sona was watching the replay, she noticed that the flame actually came out from her mouth instead of a magic circle. It's almost like a dragon. Eh? Sona shakes her head as she says. Nothing. Anyway, we shouldn't pry on someone else's secrets, especially someone close to me. Instead we should congratulate her first win, Tsubaki. Yes, President. I'll prepare for your departure to the underworld. After her queen disappeared with a magic circle to the underworld, Sona relaxed in her chair and a little smile adored her face. You really did it, Rias. After Madara returned to his mindscape, his face immediately turned serious. To think a random lizard would be that strong. As I expected. Good thing I was cautious and used the brat as a precaution. Who knows what other formidable creatures roam this peculiar world. After he said that, he looked at the cracks in his armor, and in a moment it was repaired. I can tell that lizard wasn't even serious. Well, not that I was myself, but still. Not even a scratch? He remembered when he used the magically empowered Chibaku Tensai technique earlier, that one was 3 times stronger than the normal one, and how the lizard was unscratched. Impenetrable skin in. Grr, he lifted his right hand a little, and from his palm a ferocious red flame was growling. Interesting, let's see what you can do, little boy. After he said that, he lifted the other hand and from it a blue flame emerged. He dropped the blue one on the ferocious red flame and instantly activated his Sharingan to observe the reaction. Roar. The red flame actually roared and swallowed the blue one. This is, said Madara as he widened his crimson eyes. Could it be? He then made another blue flame, this one much bigger than the previous. He again dropped it and let the red flame absorb it. After it swallowed the flame this time, it grew a little in size, and with his Sharingan he could see that the color had changed by 0.00005%. Kikaki, well, I definitely didn't expect this. Madara smirked and produced another blue flame. Let's see if I can tame you. And after he repeated the process countless times. I've got you now. The red flame was gone and its place stood a more intense yet serene purple one. Alright, now that it's compatible with chakra, I can finally integrate it. After that he took a lotus position in the ground, and brought his palms together. He takes a deep breath and opens his Rinnegan and says, Preta Path Forbidden Technique, first stage. Boom, his entire chakra reserves were flared instantly, the entire landscape was trembling from his terrifying chakra. He closed his eyes and calmly said, second stage. His chakra pathway system was released completely, and the intensity of his chakra doubled 100 times. Now the landscape was trembling violently, and even the space around him was starting to crack. All this came from the result of him releasing all the chakra in his body instantly. Madara smirked madly and said, third stage. Instantly all of his chakra was gone, and it seemed as if everything was going to settle before a purple flame merged from his stomach. Immediately after the flame appeared, veins appeared in Madara's head as he grunted painfully. Fourth stage. He barely managed to say it, after which the purple flame started to spread to other parts of his body. Roar. Boom, crack, more veins appeared in his head and all over his body as he was sweating profusely. Even his skin was changing colors rapidly and smoke coming from every cell in his body, and around him was the Susanoo that emerged suddenly screaming in agony as it trashed violently and swinged the swords around as if to escape the pain. It was a horrifying scene. No wonder it was called a forbidden technique. Absolutely no one could fathom the pain he was currently feeling. After what seemed like eternity, the Susanoo was gone and he finally opened his eyes. HMPH, a success. He stood up and deactivated his Rinnegan, but instead of his black round iris now he has slitted purple eyes. This is absurd, he said as he closed and opened his hand a few times. With this body, now I can simply slap Hashirama to death. He smirked evilly as he can now kill just about anyone from his old world with a casual slap, and that is without using chakra, even though his purple chakra now was worlds apart from the normal blue chakra. He opened his hand again and conjured a purple flame from his palm. This should have been impossible to achieve in my old world, he said as he remembered that in his old world only the tailed beasts and their Jinchuriki can have a unique chakra other than the natural blue one. Of course there are some that have it, but it was not that much stronger than the normal blue chakra. But this purple chakra is even stronger and more potent than the Kyuubi's chakra. Also, now that my body is comparable to that Liza HMPH, dragon, I don't even need a weapon anymore. I can simply use my body parts as weapons and my skin as armor. Now that I have this, I have the perfect excuse for the brat to use. Oh, and this. And then Madara continued to explore his new powers, and also analyze and make plans for everything else inside his gloomy mindscape and under the crimson moon. Now back to Rias and the others, because everything happened in a mindscape level and the timescale is different, they obviously didn't notice anything as Rias simply hugged Issei for a while and released him. Thank you, Issei. And no, Bucko, please, if it's that I can do it anytime and anywhere you want. Issei said while gazing at her breasts and saving the sensation to his OPPAI's directory memory. Pervert. Kaneko-chan. Issei-san, if it's a hug, I can give it to you anytime you want. Asia-chan, are you perhaps jealous? While they were chatting, a crimson magic circle appeared under Graphia. Now then, Rias-sama and everyone, I'll take you to the Gremory household. Bucko, we're not going back to school? Of course not. Rias-sama has many things to do. Now that she cancelled the marriage contract, She needs to learn how to manage the household in the Gremory's estate. Another crimson magic circle appeared beside Graphia, and a figure appeared from it and placed a hand on her shoulder. Now Graphia, take it easy, Sears X Sama, greeted Graphia as she bowed to the young man clad in a large majestic outfit. Oni-sama. Eh? Oni-sama. So that guy is the Satan of the underworld? Issei was surprised to finally see his president's brother, that he heard about him being one of the 4 great Satans of the underworld. You, everyone. He greeted them before he turned to Asia and Issei. Oh, so you're the new ones. Why yes, and nice to meet you. Asia stutters as she hides behind Issei. And you are the wielder of the Longinus, the boosted gear, correct? Why yes, I'm Hyodo Issei. Sears X smiled and bowed a little. I see. Well then I give you my thanks for giving your all to protect my cute Ria in the raiding game. Issei became flustered and said, no, I didn't do anything, it's Bucko who beat that Riser. I know, but that doesn't change the fact that you protected her before that happened. Is that so? Yes, you were very manly. Ahem, Oni-sama, what brings you here? Did you perhaps watch the raiding game? He turned to Rias. Well, before he finished, 2 other magic circles appeared behind him. From there appeared 2 persons, a stunning young girl in a magical girl outfit and a pink wand in her hand, and the other one, a young man with green hair and similarly green outfit. He was watching everything from start to finish. Yeah, thanks to that, we were forced to stay beside him to stop him from interfering. Sarafal-sama and Ajuka-sama too. Rias looked surprised that 3 of the 4 great Satans watched her raiding game. Kiba noticed Issei and Asia's questioning gazes and answered their doubts. Those are Sarafal Leviathan and Ajuka Beelzebub. They are like Sears X Sama, 2 of the 4 great Satans. What? That cute girl is Satan too. Anyway, Rias, I have some questions for you, but I'll leave it for later. You must be tired after the battle, so let Graphia take you and your peerage to the Gremory house to rest for the day. With that, Rias nodded and went with her peerage to rest for the day. But no one there or even Rias herself noticed that in a fraction of a second, her eyes became slitted like a dragon's eyes and returned back immediately. However, even that fraction of a second did not escape the senses of the being flying in the underworld sky very, very far away in the underworld. The being has the appearance of a cute young girl with long black hair and eyes, and dressed in a revealing outfit. She was flying very fast in the sky as she teared through the clouds, however she stopped abruptly, which caused an immense shockwave that blew all the clouds in her surrounding 20 kilometers. After that she turned around and looked from the corner of her eyes. She waited a few hours without moving a muscle in the sky before she shook her head and said, "A mistake." However, she didn't mean what she said. She certainly and definitely felt that immense draconic aura. Her senses that were toned since the beginning of time and existence can't possibly fool her. At that moment a small magic circle appeared near her ear. "Office-sama, where are you? Everything is ready here." She kept looking in that direction for a few minutes before she turned back and continued in her original direction. "I'm on my way," she answered before dispelling the magic circle. While she is flying at an even faster speed than before, she turned her head one more time before returning back and said, "I'll remember it." After she said that, she disappeared from the sheer speed she was moving at. Chapter 6, Damn you evil Uchiha. I will definitely kill all of. Gasp! Rias suddenly gasped as she jumped from her bed while covered in cold sweat. Ha! Ha! She was breathing heavily as her eyes trembled from the nightmare she just experienced. Again, tonight too. After she calmed down, she muttered that with a quivered voice as curled up while sitting in her bed. Then she pressed her chest tightly against her knees. It must be that guy's memories. It's already been 2 days since she won her raiding game against Riser. Even now, she still can't believe that the problem that haunted her for almost all her life was resolved just like that. The fact that she doesn't remember anything about how she defeated him didn't help either. But she already knows the culprit who took control of her body and the one that literally beat the shit out of Riser. But where did he go? However, the man who called himself Madara somehow disappeared without saying a word. She wanted to at least thank him for his help, but the man just wouldn't show himself for some reason. Madara-san? Are you inside of me? Rias felt awkward saying that last part, but even then Madara still wouldn't respond to her at all. Don't tell me. He's ignoring me? A thought suddenly flashed in her mind and then she immediately became annoyed. HMPH. Rias grumbled and then looked at the night's purple sky outside of the window. She and her Parij are currently staying in the Gremory household because Grafia was being the usual pain of the ass. She forced them to stay here for a week so that she could learn how to manage the household in the Gremory's estate. Gotta go back to sleep, I still have to wake up early to learn that boring stuff. Rias then yawned and quickly went back to sleep. Rias didn't notice it, but all this time someone was constantly observing her ever since she returned from the raiding game. Even now he was currently leaning silently against the wall in a corner of the room. It was her brother Sears Lucifer. He had a frown on his face as he crossed his arms in front of him. Madara. After 39 hours of continuous monitoring, he finally got a lead about what happened to Rias. He of course interrogated her as soon as they got to the mansion, but his precious Ria just wouldn't spill the beans and just kept suitoring as she denied everything about how she doesn't remember anything and whatnot. Of course, no one believed her obvious lies, so he was forced to monitor her all the time while constantly maintaining all sorts of advanced detective magic spells that he used in the Civil War and in the past. At least, he now confirmed that no one was forcing Rias to stay silent, so her refusing to speak must be because of her own decision. There was still the possibility that someone threatened her beforehand, but that was highly unlikely since he knew that Rias would absolutely tell her almighty brother no matter the one who dared to threaten her. Madara. Sears would remember that name. For now, as the leader of the underworld, he cannot postpone his duties any more than this. So he reluctantly decided to leave Ria's side and hopefully she would one day tell him the whole story. Sleep well, Rias. Sears went and stroked his sister's head one last time before he invoked a teleportation magic circle and disappeared from the room. After Mao Lucifer's presence was completely gone, Rias slowly opened her eyes. However, instead of the beautiful blue eyes that anyone would expect, right now they were in the shape of slitted purple like the ones you would see in a reptile creature. Rias just stared blankly at the ceiling as she blinked once, twice, thrice, and then her eyes transformed yet again to a dark color. As soon as her eyes took on the obsidian-like color, Rias immediately lifted her hands and then she made some kind of hand signs as she muttered calmly. Doden. Dochu Igyo no Jutsu, Earth Release, Underground Projection. After she said those words, her body slowly started sinking through the bed and then also through the floor until she found herself in the storage room below. Tap, she landed skillfully from the ceiling and then without wasting any second her hands blurred again. Mokatan. Moku Bunshin no Jutsu, Wood Style, Wood Clone Jutsu. 4 human-like wooden dolls suddenly spurted from all over her body as each one landed on a certain corner of the room. The wooden dolls then quickly changed their appearance and took the shape of 4 different staff of the mansion. They were a maid, a male gardener, a male guard, and a female civil servant respectively. Go, Swish. Madara, who was controlling Rias's body, only said one word, and then the 4 clones all disappeared at the same time. They will silently take the lives of their respective target and then erase their corpses to take on their identities, and considering this mansion's security levels, well, it was insulting to even call it child's play to the legendary leader of the Uchiha clan. This world is ridiculous. Madara at first planned to take it slowly and just stay hidden for the time being, letting the brat do her thing and only intervene when necessary. It was so that he could thoroughly study this world while also trying to find his purpose. Also, considering his current body's longevity, he might as well take a few centuries doing just that. However, a random powerhouse completely blew his leisure to smithereens. Rare creatures like that oversized lizard were one thing, but species that numbers in the millions are another thing entirely. Madara could still vividly remember the terrifying amount of demonic energy barely hidden in that man's body. Contrary to what many people might believe, Madara was not a man blinded by his own power. If a random member of the devil race with a somewhat special lineage to their origin could have that much potential. Madara smirked as he looked at his trembling feminine hand with uncontainable excitement. Smirk and also, just a tiny little bit of uncertainty. An emotion that he never thought he would ever feel again in his life. The next morning. Oju-sama, another 5 minutes Akino. Oju-sama, please wake up, it's morning already. Rias was sleeping soundly as a maid was trying to wake her up. However, Rias was showing no sign of waking up, so seeing that, the maid's eyes suddenly turned cold. This damn brat. Just when the maid was about to use a very effective and special method to wake up her lazy lady, someone else unceremoniously barged into the room. The maid immediately retracted her hand as her eyes quickly turned to normal. Even her shoulders trembled to make it seem like she was surprised. The woman who entered also quickly noticed the maid as she approached her with a questioning look on her face. You are? Grafia asked the suspicious fellow maid that was standing right beside Rias's bed. As far as she knows, excluding Lord Rias Gremory and Lady Venelana Gremory, she was the only one allowed to personally wake up the family members of the Gremory household. Good morning, Grafia-san, I hope you're doing well. The maid greeted Grafia with a simple nod like she always did. Grafia nodded back as she looked the maid over from top to bottom. She was a typical beautiful devil woman with long black ponytailed hair and dark eyes who was wearing the same maid outfit as herself. She is one of the many trusted maids in the mansion. If Grafia remembers correctly, her name should be Narbaril, and she served the Gremory household even longer than herself. So theoretically it could be said she has more authority than her. However, what are you doing here? You are not allowed to enter Rias-sama's bedroom without exclusive permission. Grafia berated the maid with a cold expression while demanding an explanation. Grafia might be a maid, but she was also the legal wife of the oldest son of Lord Gremory, and not to mention she was also the strongest queen and the silver-haired queen of annihilation. A commoner devil maid like Narbaril simply does not have a chance to compete with her. Oh my! It seems you weren't informed yet. Narbaril was surprised at first and then put a hand in front of her mouth as she exclaimed in realization. Grafia frowned as she furrowed her brows in confusion. Narbaril noticed her expression as she proceeded to take an expensive-looking paper from her outfit and gave it to Grafia. Starting from today, the Gremory's management department decided to appoint me as Rias-sama's personal maid. What? Grafia's eyes widened as she quickly scanned the legal paper in her hands while listening to Narbaril's words. Since Rias-sama has cancelled her marriage contract with the Phoenix's heir, it has been decided that it would not be appropriate to leave the future head of the Gremory's household without at least some personal servants ready to serve her at all times. Grafia couldn't believe what she was hearing as she read the paper many times over just to make sure that what the maid was saying was authentic. And it was indeed authentic, as she could even feel the wavelengths of the magical stamp at the bottom that clearly belonged to the Gremory's management department. Oh right, I believe soon there will also be a personal guard too. Right now a tournament will be held among the Gremory's guards to find the strongest candidate that will have the privilege to be Rias-sama's personal guard. Grafia was speechless as she could only stutter. I see. Grafia reluctantly gave the paper back to Narbaril and was about to wake up Rias when suddenly Narbaril grabbed her hand with a small smile on her face. Ah, from now on you don't have to trouble yourself with Rias-sama. As her personal maid, it is my duty to attend to all her needs at all times. So you can just leave her to me and focus on helping Sirzex-sama and Milikas-sama. Grafia flinched as she awkwardly retracted her hand. Oh, I understand. Aren't you happy to spend more time with your family starting from today? Narbaril said as she chuckled in amusement. Hearing her kind words, Grafia couldn't help smiling back at her. Yeah, I guess you're right. And Madara, who was in the mindscape closely watching his clone's utter success in infiltrating the Gremory household, rolled his eyes in contempt. It seems he would need to start by strengthening the laughable security protocols in the mansion first. Chapter 7. After Grafia learned about the new development from Narbaril, she swiftly provided her with a short set of advice and a complete summary about Rias's usual routine. Then she patted Narbaril's shoulder a few times and teleported away using a teleportation circle. Now left alone in the bedroom with its owner still asleep, Narbaril quickly turned to the bed and stared at Rias. As a clone of Madara, Narbaril shares all of his memories and thus by extension all of Rias's too. Now that Grafia reminded her about Rias's utterly ridiculous routine, she immediately became enraged and thought that she would not allow such a powerful body to go to waste like that. But to do that, she will first need to get permission from Madara. After all, the original shares the same body as the devil. After a quick mental communication, she received a "do it" permit. As soon as she received the order, Narbaril didn't waste any second as she immediately grabbed the side of the bed with one hand and then she easily flipped the whole thing over. Kya? Since Rias was still asleep in the bed, she got thrown away and fell awkwardly to the floor. What happened? Rias immediately stood back up as she looked around the room in panic. Her naked body is on full display. Brat, it's me. Rias turned her head to the owner of the voice and furrowed her brows in confusion. What are you doing here? Where is Grafia? When she noticed the maid, Rias dropped her guard a bit but then noticed the bed hanging helplessly from her hand. What are you doing? Rias became alerted as she took a few steps back away from the silent Narbaril. She only managed to take 2 steps before a familiar voice sounded in her head. "Calm down, brat, that's my clone." When she heard Madara's voice, Rias's eyes widened. Madara? Where have you been all this time? Even though I called you so many times, why wouldn't you answer me? I couldn't, your brother was nearby. Eh? Onisama? That man was closely monitoring us for almost 2 days now. But I didn't see him at all. HMPH, as if you can detect anything with your trash ability. Don't overestimate yourself, brat. Rias flinched from the cold tone of Madara. But when she was about to defend herself, Rias noticed the maid who casually placed her bed back to its place and started walking towards her closet. Madara swiftly answered her unspoken question. That maid over there is my clone. From now on she will become your personal maid. See clone? Personal maid? However, that will only be on the surface, as the clone will mostly follow my orders and will not be around you most of the time. As Madara explained to her, Rias watched the maid blankly with her mouth wide open as the supposed clone of Madara opened her closet and took out a clean set of her clothes. The maid then nodded to herself and suddenly threw them at her. Ah! What are you doing? Rias quickly brought up her hands and catched the clothes before they hit her face. She then looked at them and found out that they were a blue jacket and skin-tight black leggings. Definitely not casual clothes for indoor activity. Rias suddenly had a very bad feeling about this. Don't tell me. It's time for training, brat. Why, you're joking, right? Rias paled considerably as she noticed the expression on the face of the maid that was slowly walking towards her. Smirk in her nightmares, Rias has seen just a tiny glimpse of what kind of training Madara was talking about. She even prayed to every god out there to never see the rest of it. Gulp, Madara? Rias took a few steps back as she gulped in uncertainty. Madara-san. And that was how Rias started her exclusive training under none other than the legendary leader of the Uchiha clan, Madara Uchiha himself. Rias will later realize that this is the biggest pivotal moment in her life. One that will surely shake the entire underworld and perhaps even the other realms as well. A few hours after Graphia left Rias's room, Yuto Kiba could be seen standing in the garden while holding a sword in his hand. Yuto is a handsome young man with short blonde hair, blue eyes and a mole underneath his left eye. But all that was ruined as he currently had a deep frown in his face. Too slow. After he watched Rias's performance in the rating game, to say that Yuto was surprised would be an understatement. As her knight and as Rias Gremory's sword, Yuto felt utterly ashamed of himself. A knight that is slower than his master is but a dead weight to his king. Those were the wise words of his sword mentor that Yuto took very seriously to his heart. Yuto took a stance and then using his entire strength he slashed horizontally as fast as he could. His incredible swordsmanship together with his enhanced devil body produced a strong gust of wind that swept across the garden and then struck a tree, leaving a huge mark in its trunk. It was a great display of skill that many knights high-class devils could never hope to achieve. But instead of that, Yuto could only see just how far he was from reaching Rias's level. Damn it. Yuto clearly remembers that moment, the shocking moment Rias slashed with her bare hand to behead Riser. Devils who rely on their magic might not have noticed. Or rather, at most they might only recognize the speed. The mere speed at which his king's slender arm moved. But that was only an outcome, a natural outcome of the godly level of technique in an almost supernatural madness of refinement. The way her joints moved, the way her body shifted to the side, the way she positioned her center of gravity, the way she meticulously moved her spine, the fact that she controlled every single muscle fiber to generate the ultimate maximum of kinetic energy. As a swordsman, Yuto could only marvel at such a terrifying display of skill. Yuto gritted his teeth as he kept swinging his sword like a madman. Swing, he needed to get stronger, way stronger. Otherwise, at his current level, he wouldn't be able to face Rias anymore. At the same time, and in the capital of the Satan territory, commonly known as the capital of the underworld, Lilith. Sirzex was sitting behind his desk as he was dealing with a huge number of papers that accumulated during the time he was watching over Rias. Knock, enter. At that moment, someone knocked on the door and Sirzex answered without moving his eyes from the paper in his hands. Excuse me. The one who entered was Graphia as she gracefully closed the door behind her and moved to stand silently beside her husband. Sirzex stamped the paper he was holding before putting it to the side and picking a new one. After looking at it for a moment, he asked without looking at Graphia. What's wrong? Did something happen? It's about Rias. The moment he heard his sister's name, Sirzek squeezed the paper in his hand as he asked with a frown. What about Ria? Grafia then explained what happened in the Gremory mansion and how Rias got a personal maid and everything. Sigh, you scared me. If that is all that happened, then I don't see what the problem is. After hearing her explanation, Sirzek sighed in relief and continued with his work. Seeing his relaxed attitude, Grafia furrowed her brows and said, "Don't you think it's suspicious?" "What is? The Gremory's management department?" "Yes, for them to only now decide." Grafia couldn't find the right words to finish her piece, but Sirzek know what she means. As the oldest son of the Gremory's family, Sirzek was initially the original heir of the household, but because of his achievement in the Civil War, Sirzek became the Satan Lucifer and the leader of the 4 great Satans. Since he was now in the position of a ruler of the underworld and the one who was in charge of domestic affairs in the entire underworld, it became counterproductive for him to inherit the Gremory's name, so that responsibility naturally fell to his one and only sibling, Rias Gremory. But his cute sister was simply not prepared for that position. She even once publicly announced her uninterest in the matter, which caused no small amount of discontent and complaints in the Gremory's estate. Moreover, after he and Grafia were blessed with their first child, the tension in the Gremory's territory suddenly increased as the attention shifted from Rias to his son Milica's Gremory, proclaiming that as the son of the current Satan Lucifer, he should be the one to inherit the Gremory's household. Of course, Sirzek and his father rejected those demands immediately and used the engagement with the Phoenix household as a card to hold Rias's position as the heir. The opposed party then has no choice but to gnash their thumbs because the Phoenix clan is also one of the remaining 32 devil clans of the 72 pillars and holds the rank of Marquis. And as being the brother of the next heir to the Phoenix clan and a potential heir himself, Riser Phoenix engagement with the heir of the Gremory clan would benefit both clans greatly and the pure blood devils as a whole. However, that card was just recently broken, worse, by Rias herself. So Sirzek together with his father prepared to face the opposing party again, this time also using his authority as leader of the underworld to force them down, even if that act would cause even more political trouble in the bigger picture. But look and behold, the Gremory's clan actually decided to assign a personal maid and a guard to Rias, clearly showing their intention in embracing her as the true heir. Grafia was trying to say that the very fact that they're doing something like this instead of opposing definitely smells fishy. Sirzek put the paper down and massaged his eyes with a tired expression. Regardless of their motive, if they decided to increase the security around Ria, then I'm all ears to accept it. That is true, I guess. The two then stayed silent for a few seconds before Grafia broke the silence again. Oh, I forgot to mention. This morning Rias took Narbaril with her and went to train in the forest. Grafia dropped a bomb casually as if nothing was strange about it. Sirzek stared blankly at his desk for a solid 10 seconds, before he blurted out. What? Pathetic. Back in the Gremory's territory, in the forest west to the mansion, where monsters and wild animals reside. Inside an opening in the thick forest, Rias was lying unconscious in the ground. Her sport attire was tattered as blood was covering her entire body. Her left arm dislocated and her fingers were curved in a strange angle. Even her face was beaten to the point where you couldn't even recognize her anymore. Looking at Rias that was in such a horrible state, Narbaril crossed her bloodied hands as she muttered in a cold tone. Weak, too weak, miserably weak. Rias' skills were barely slightly above the genin level. Even when disregarding her ninjutsu, genjutsu, senjutsu and considering her magic instead, her taijutsu level is truly laughable. Even with an evolved and stronger body after consuming that dragon's energy, in terms of skills she was as weak as an average kid back in the hidden villages. Speaking about magic, Narbaril looked at her waist where a small portion of her maid dress was missing. That was the only damage Rias could do using her power of destruction. The bloodline trait of the Bael clan that Rias inherited from her mother, just like her older brother. A unique demonic power, which allows her to erase and disintegrate matter, living and inanimate things. It is like a weaker version of the particle style, atomic dismantling, jutsu that Onoki Brat is so proud of. The only advantage this power of destruction has over the particle style jutsu is its wide attack area and the seemingly instant invocation without any hand seals whatsoever. While Narbaril was thinking, Rias's body suddenly twitched, before instantly jumping up like nothing happened. Madara, who took control of Rias's body, looked at himself a little before he activated his regenerative powers. Crack! Immediately the dislocated arm returned to its place and all the injuries healed instantly. Even the clothes were restored to their original state as if Rias was never beaten half to death just a few moments ago. Now then, Madara muttered as he closed and opened his right hand a few times. Then he lifted his head and spoke with a rather sinister expression on his face. Did you have a good show, devil rat? Russell, shit. As soon as Madara said that, a curse sounded from the top of a nearby tree as something flew out from it and rushed into the other side of the forest. Ha ha ha. Did you honestly think you could run away from this, Madara? Madara then laughed loudly as he covered his face with his left hand before he suddenly disappeared from his place while leaving his clone Narbarrel behind.